We're seeing the mass mobilization of a new resistance movement across the country, and it looks like elected Democrats are taking their cues from us all. My name is Brittany Page, and this is the Page Perspective. We're going to get into this important clip that I think will lift your spirits in a moment, and I can't wait to hear what you think about it, but we need to set the scene here. I know you might think that the billionaires who are systematically dismantling essential government programs with zero oversight would be more of a priority, but no. Republicans are going after SNAP, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which you may know as food stamps. Republicans today held a House Committee on Agriculture meeting, and they called it the Power of Work, Expanding Opportunity Through SNAP. And you may be thinking, wow, this is really not the time to be going after food assistance, right? With all the talk of a recession due to Trump's tariffs, fears of price increases and job losses across the country, with even business leaders who were previously supportive of Trump now speaking out against his economic agenda. You'd think the Republicans would read the room. I know that's expecting a lot. I mean, this is an administration that is preparing to harm millions of families across the country because they are so determined to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. They tell us, they tell you that we cannot afford things like universal health care, universal child care, and yes, food stamps. All the while, they're out here talking about increasing the Pentagon budget to $1 trillion. This from the party who claims to be concerned with so-called waste, fraud, and abuse, ready to hand over a $1 trillion budget to an agency that cannot pass an audit, cannot explain where its existing almost $900 billion budget goes. The Republican Party is all in on tax cuts for the wealthy and increasing the Department of Defense budget, and they're willing to sacrifice the rest of us in the process. I mean, did you see the recent reporting from Washington Post showing that NIH scientists had a cancer breakthrough that is now threatened by the mass layoffs? All sources linked in the description as always. Now, if you attended this weekend's hands-off protests like I did, you saw just how many people are starting to rise up and fight back against the injustice we see daily from the Trump administration. In talking with people I know, the overall message was one of hope, but also a fear that the mass mobilization in the streets wouldn't necessarily translate into pressure on elected officials to act as an opposition to this administration. I think it's really important that we see examples of this in action because it helps us stay engaged and stay hopeful that our work, our activism, our showing up and taking to the streets, that it matters. Enter Representative Jim McGovern, representing Massachusetts' 2nd Congressional District, who spoke during the House Committee hearing on SNAP benefits and gave a powerful rebuke to the attacks from Republicans on the poor and working class in this moment. Let's watch this and talk about it on the other side.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And let me be blunt. It's frustrating to be here today. To have a hearing on this topic at this moment, I think is a colossal disappointment. I think it's an insult to America's farmers and ranchers, an insult to hungry families, and frankly, given what is happening in the world right now, an insult to the intelligence of anyone with a functioning brain. Where's our hearing on tariffs, Mr. Chairman? Where's our hearing on how these tariffs are going to cost farmers and ranchers billions in lost sales? Where's our hearings on how the Secretary of Agriculture went on TV this weekend and couldn't explain why we're slapping tariffs on uninhabited islands in the middle of the ocean? I mean, this stuff is nuts. Where's our hearing on how Trump and Elon Musk are shutting down the USDA phone lines, firing the staff that farmers rely on for help, and gutting the programs that connect local farms to local schools? Where's our hearing on how food prices are about to go through the roof? This administration went from promising lower prices and a better economy to promising higher prices and a recession. And just when you think it couldn't get more out of touch, they're cutting SNAP to pay for tax breaks for Trump and his billionaire buddies. So let me get this straight. You guys tank the economy, you drive up food prices, and your solution is to cut food assistance for people who already struggle to afford food? Who the hell thought that was a good idea? I mean, honestly, I'd like to meet them just so I can ask them what's wrong with them. This is literally trying to sabotage our country. You guys are setting the house on fire and slashing the fire department's budget at the same time. It is insane. And if I have to sit through one more Republican lecture about how SNAP discourages work, I might lose it. This is grade A, weapons grade stupidity. It's a lie. It was a lie the first time you said it, and it'll still be a lie the millionth time. Now let me break it down for folks at home. Most people on SNAP are kids, senior citizens, and people with disabilities. They cannot work, and we don't expect them to. Should we repeal the child labor laws? Send grandma back to the factory? And of the people who can work, the vast majority already do. So spare us the condescending talk about the dignity of work. If you guys cared about that, you'd be raising the minimum wage. But you don't. You care about demonizing poor people to score political points. And you guys can go right ahead and do that, but don't expect the rest of us to play along. And before you guys all pull out your Heritage Foundation talking points on work requirements, I just want to say to everyone watching at home, there are already very strict work requirements in SNAP and time limits for able-bodied adults. Look it up. It's the law. And by the way, SNAP benefits are paltry. We're talking $2 per meal. That's what it is now. You guys want to cut the program by $230 billion. You want to even lower that. But most of you spent more on your coffee this morning. Now, call me radical, but I don't think it's morally right to slash a food benefit that costs a sliver of the federal budget while farmers get hammered and food prices go through the roof.
Yes, yes, yes. I cannot tell you how happy I was listening to this. There are several things that I want to highlight here, but the first thing is that work requirements already exist for SNAP. If you've been watching my videos for any time at all, you've no doubt already heard me talk about work requirements, whether for SNAP or for the states who have tried to implement work requirements for Medicaid. You know that they simply exist as punishment. They are a way to prevent people who desperately need assistance from getting that assistance. And the constant focus on whether those who are receiving assistance are working is simply a way to try to amplify the false narrative that poor people are lazy and content to sit back and collect the checks at the taxpayer's expense. We know this is false, but just in case you don't, let's look at the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Quote, most SNAP participants who can work do so. Over half of individuals who were participating in SNAP in a typical month in 2015 were working in that month. Further, 74% worked in the year before or after that month. In the 25-month period, rates were even higher when including work among other household members. 89% of households with children and a non-disabled adult included at least one member who worked in this 25-month period. More than 2/3 of SNAP participants are not expected to work, primarily because they are children, older adults, or disabled people. And I'm going to link to other studies that show these work requirements for SNAP don't actually increase work or earnings. They simply exist to force people out of the program. And this all comes down to the same tired arguments about individual responsibility and the undeserving versus the deserving poor. The people in our halls of power who have never had to worry about where their next meal comes from want to put policies in place that burden those who are already dealing with more than those in power could even imagine. It's sickening, and we should all resist it. And I want to read just one more thing here from a report from the Economic Policy Institute. Quote, more stringent work requirements implemented in the past have largely failed to boost work in significant ways because these requirements do not attack the core problems of weak macroeconomic conditions, the volatile nature of low-wage work, and other barriers to work like caregiving responsibilities. Many of the programs that some people might be excluded from by work requirements can meaningfully be thought of as work supports. Some public benefit programs, particularly Medicaid and SNAP, serve as human capital investments that can boost long-run earnings and employment prospects. Now, this is the evidence, but Republicans are still focused on punishment. And there are several important points to remember when you start hearing Republicans talk about work requirements for essential programs. The first being that work requirements already exist for SNAP. 2, they exist to punish the poor. 3, they do not increase participation in work or earnings. 4, they do nothing to address the problem of unstable employment in low-wage jobs or the fundamental barriers to maintaining employment, like being able to pay for child care. What number am I on? 5? These programs are investments in people. We invest in people while they are struggling towards stability. We help them gain that stability, and they go on to enjoy that stability. This shouldn't be hard. Please keep pressure on your elected officials, because we need to stand together and make sure those who can do the most to fight against the injustice from this administration do it. So thank you to Jim McGovern, and hopefully we see more of this. Call your elected officials and let them know, hands off Medicaid and SNAP. 202-224-3121. When you're done calling them, you can call me. I'd love to know what you think about all that I've said here. Call and leave me a fewer than 3-minute voicemail at 202-656-1509 or send an email to idoughtit@dollemore.com. You can support my work here by clicking the join button below to become a channel member for as little as $1.99 a month, or by going to patreon.com/idoubtitpodcast, or you can share this video, or you can share my channel with someone who might enjoy it. You can click the subscribe button for free. You can click the like button for free. You can leave a comment for free. Truly, anything helps. I would really appreciate it. Take care, and I will see you next time.